most important works, so to speak, in the world's literature. Really, we're talking about a trilogy. A trilogy is a combination of 3 works, usually 3 dramas, though a trilogy in the novel is possible too. The trilogy we'll deal with is not, strictly speaking, a trilogy. I'll explain. The playwright we'll discuss is Sophocles, who was one of the 3 giants of Athenian drama, Athenian tragedy, anyway. First of all, his dates: 496 BC to 406 BC, 90 years. And he was producing plays even in the year of his death. One of the plays we will deal with was first produced in the year of his death. So, remarkable man. One of the great success stories in the world's literature, like Shakespeare, he, like Goethe, like Dante, very famous in his own time, in fact called a demigod in his own time. That meant that at his death, his fellow citizens made a shrine for him, and people went to this shrine to pray for the god's intervene. That's how famous he was in his own time. Probably he wrote about 124 tragedies. Of these, 96 were winners. That is, won the drama contest, the tragedy contest. Now maybe I'll explain that a little bit. Each year, at the festival of Dionysus, really there were 2 each year, but at the Greater Dionysia, it was called, playwrights would submit 4 plays, a tetralogy, not a trilogy really, but the 4th play was called a satyr or satire, satyr play, not satire. A satyr was an animal, a mythical animal with goat's legs and feet, and a human torso and upper body, and a horse's tail. These creatures were symbolic of drunkenness and lechery. Look that word up, L-E-C-H-E-R-Y. The 4th play was a satyr play, and it was designed to help people relax and to relieve the tension that had accumulated as a result of the first 3 plays, because the first 3 plays were tragedies. The first 3 plays constitute a trilogy, but together the 4 plays, again, are a tetralogy. Anyway, each year playwrights submitted their works to a committee, and the committee chose 4 playwrights to compete. Each playwright submitted 4 plays, as I said, so a total of 16 plays. There would be a 1st place winner, 2nd place, and 3rd place winner. So when I say that Sophocles won 96 times out of 124, that's 96 divided by 4, whatever that is, and 124 divided by 4, figure it out. That means almost every year Sophocles won 1st place. Remarkable. Amazing. No wonder he was regarded as something a little more than human. Okay, now what about our trilogy? Our trilogy is called the Oedipus Trilogy. Oedipus, Oedipus. Now, strictly speaking, it's not a trilogy. There's only one trilogy in Greek drama, and that's the Oresteia, that is surviving. Only one surviving trilogy in Greek drama, and that's the Oresteia by Aeschylus. Then how is Oedipus a trilogy? It's a trilogy in a certain sense. The first play, let's take the plays in the order in which the action takes place or unfolds. The first play, Oedipus the King, Oedipus Rex, sometimes called, Rex is Latin for king, was presented in 427 BC. The second play, though, Oedipus at Colonus, was presented in the year of his death, 406. And the third play in the order of drama is the Antigone, and it was actually the one that Sophocles wrote first, 441 BC. So you can see these three were not presented together, and strictly speaking do not form a trilogy. But some people think that that Sophocles had in mind a trilogy for the three plays when he died. And that was why he wrote this and produced this Oedipus at Colonus. Again, the three dates, 441, 427, 406. So, again, strictly speaking, not a trilogy. But the world regards them as a trilogy, and that's understandable. By the way, of those 124 plays by Sophocles, only 7 survive. So no wonder we want to see them as a trilogy. 7 out of 124, not very good. But we're lucky to have the 7. That's a miracle. 2. Okay, now let's deal with the plays in order. The plays are not very long. Really, the 3 plays together are more than a Shakespearean play for number of lines. Number of words, the 3 plays together are about the same length as a Shakespearean play. So that the length of time required to actually perform these plays is probably about the same as a long Shakespearean play, say Hamlet. Okay, the first play, Oedipus the King. Wonderful play, the most famous, I suppose, of the 3. First, I have to give you background. It's the only way to understand any myth, really, and this especially. I'm going to go back, sorry. Really, this reminds me of something Dr. Shin and I have talked about, Greek myth. I can talk about Greek myth for hours, and so this is another field that we can explore. Most students love this because the stories are so fascinating, and this is certainly one of the best. Okay, background. A little geography would help, but I don't have a map here. But 4 places are involved in this story. The first place is Thebes, and the story, properly speaking, of Oedipus belongs to the Theban cycle of myths, of which there are quite a few. There was a prince of Thebes called Laius, L-A-I-U-S usually, a young man. He, for some reason, paid a visit to a family that he knew and that his father knew pretty well. Father doesn't matter. In Elis. Elis is where modern Olympia is. Not Mount Olympus to the north, but Olympia on the Peloponnese. And these are words that come up again and again, but we don't have time. In any case, modern Elis. Elis, E-L-I-S. In the upper northwest corner of the Peloponnese. Anyway, the king there was King Pelops. He goes way back too. Okay, now this is a bit colorful, but Korean children are sophisticated enough for this. Anyway, Prince Laius went down to Elis to pay a visit for some reason. The king there was Pelops, famous in myth already. I'll tell his story sometime. Pelops had 2 sons by his wife. His wife was Hippodamia, and that's a great story too. 2 sons, and the 2 sons are very famous in myth by his wife, but that's a different story. The 3rd son he had by a nymph, N-Y-M-P-H, and that nymph, that son's name was Chrysippus. Chrysippus was a beautiful boy. And this Greek myth, sorry, this is Greek myth. And anyway, Prince Laius came to visit, and Laius, let's say, fell in love with this boy. This happens in Greek myth. He kidnapped the boy, abducted the boy on his chariot, and left in a hurry. Pelops, the father, who adored this boy, Chrysippus, pursued. And Pelops had a very fast chariot, which plays a role in his myths. Anyway, Pelops caught up with Laius and his little boy, took his little boy Chrysippus back, and cursed Laius. Now this is important, and you have to know this in the story. The curses were taken very seriously by the Greeks in ancient myth. And the curse was this: may you, Prince Laius, never have a son. Disaster. Or, if you do have a son, may he kill you. Whoa! Serious myth. Okay, and with that, he let him go. Laius returned to Thebes. Later, Laius became the king, married a woman named Jocasta, famous, and he avoided sleeping with her, his wife, his lawful wife. Jocasta was understandably hurt, irked, I-R-K-E-D, annoyed, curious, what's going on, what's happening here? And so Jocasta made him drunk, gave him a lot of wine to drink. And they slept together, man and wife. Not surprisingly, she was pregnant. She was with child, as we say. Uh-oh. Well, now, at last, Laius told his wife why he had avoided sleeping with her. And the reason was this curse. Now they were husband and wife. They had to find a solution for this situation. And the solution was a typical Greek solution. They couldn't just kill the baby. They also could not ignore the curse. And so the idea was to tie the baby's ankles together by a wire and put the baby out on a mountainside where lions and bears were numerous still in those ancient times. And if a lion or a bear or an animal killed the baby, well, it wasn't their fault. Natural causes. Because if they killed the baby, then the Furies would torment them. And the Greeks believed in these. If one killed one's related, one's relative, bound by consanguinity, blood, this was trouble. So that was their solution. They gave the baby to a shepherd from Thebes. Remember now, we're in Thebes. This is very important. Gave the baby to a shepherd, a Theban shepherd, and told the shepherd to take the baby out to the hillside and leave the baby there to be killed. The Theban shepherd was a good man, and this was just too much. This was too painful. He, every winter, would meet a Corinthian shepherd, that is, a shepherd from another town, a famous town, Corinth, far away. They met at this mountain, Mount Kithaeron, which is the biggest mountain in the area. So the Theban shepherd decided he would give the baby to the Corinthian shepherd, his friend. The Corinthian shepherd could take the baby back to Corinth, raise the baby there, and no one would ever know. A good solution. So that's what he did. The Corinthian shepherd took the baby, this baby is Oedipus, took the baby back to Corinth, and it seems that the king and queen of Corinth had no children. So the Corinthian baby was given to the king and queen of Corinth and raised as a prince of Corinth. Okay, the baby grew and grew. When the baby, I think, was about 17 or 18 years old, we don't know anything earlier, who was invited to dinner in the royal palace at Corinth now. This man drank too much, got drunk. That's the expression you need, got drunk. And in his drunkenness, in his intoxication, he said to Oedipus, 17, 18 years old now, "You think you know your parents. They are not your parents." The boy, the young man, was upset by this. And so he went to his parents, he thought, the king and queen of Corinth, and said, Mom, Dad, what is this man talking about? Mom and Dad said, forget it. Ignore him. He's just drunk. But the boy could not rest until he found out more. And this is the first trait, T-R-A-I-T, that we learn about Oedipus. He's persistent. He persists. He is stubborn, especially to know the truth. Is this good or bad? Good and bad, maybe. In any case, he did what civilized people of his time did. He went to Delphi. Anyone who learns anything about Greek literature, Greek drama, Greek culture in ancient times must know about Delphi, D-E-L-P-H-I. At Delphi, the temple of Apollo, very famous at the time, was found. And in the temple of Apollo were the priests of Apollo, and especially the Pythia. The Pythia was a woman who prophesied, prophesied the future. And she was supposed to be speaking with the voice of Apollo, the god of prophecy, the god of music, the god of light, many things. So, young Oedipus went to Delphi to find out the truth. And he asked the priests, basically, he asked Apollo, really, what's the truth? Are these people in Corinth my parents or not? Who am I? This is the level, one of the profoundest levels of the myth. Because the myth raises big questions about, in a sense, it raises the questions about self-knowledge. Does one ever really know oneself? That's interesting. Okay. And Apollo basically said, go away, you are cursed by the gods. You are contaminated, polluted. You are destined to marry your mother and kill your father. Terrible. Go away. And so he left. But where could he go? Well, he thought, I will not go back to Corinth because Mom and Dad are there. At this point, the word irony, dramatic irony, becomes huge. What is dramatic irony? We have dramatic irony when the audience, the spectators, have knowledge that the people on the stage, the characters on the stage, do not have. We in the audience know that his real parents are not in Corinth at all. We know more than he does. He doesn't know this. And so he went a different way. Walked and walked. And he came, this is the most famous part of the myth so far, I think, came to a place where three roads met. At this crossroad, he stopped. Left lay the road to Thebes. Right lay the road back to Corinth, where he was from, and the road he was on led back to Delphi. Which way shall I go? And he couldn't decide. And so he stood there in thought, thinking. And he's a man who thinks. Now, he's thinking so deeply that he forgets where he is. He is absorbed in his thinking. Down the road from Thebes comes a chariot. On the chariot are an old man and a charioteer driving the chariot. Accompanying the chariot are about 5 soldiers. So this is clearly a man who has some power and some wealth. Oedipus, thinking, does not notice this chariot, does not notice these people. The charioteer calls out to him, you there, get out of the way, move. Oedipus doesn't move. The charioteer then hits him with his stick, and maybe his whip too, hits him. Oedipus snaps out of his trance and is so angry that he attacks these people. He kills the old man on the chariot. He kills the charioteer. He kills 4 of the 5 soldiers. Well, we're learning a lot about this man. He has a violent temper, And he's also quite a fighter. He's a powerful guy. One man escapes, runs back to Thebes to tell them what has happened, apparently. Runs back in any case. Oedipus now has to decide he's going to go toward Thebes. That's the way he'll take. 5 dead men lie behind him. 2 and 4, 6. Okay. He goes toward Thebes. Near Thebes, he comes to a hill area, and in the hills is a sphinx. Part bird, part lion, part woman. And this sphinx has been tormenting Thebes for a long time now, because the sphinx asks riddles to people from Thebes. They have to come, they have to try to answer the riddle. And when these people do not answer the riddle correctly, the sphinx kills them. Well, apparently some people have been killed. Many people have been killed. Oedipus decides he has nothing to lose. He will go and try to answer the question of the sphinx. If he loses, his life is a burden to him anyway. If he wins, he'll be famous and successful. The famous myth. What walks on four feet in the morning, 2 at noon, and 3 in the evening. Oedipus thinks it's very important, I think, that Oedipus does not pray to the gods for enlightenment. He relies only on his own wits. And he says, man. Man walks on 4 legs in the morning in his youth because he crawls, a baby. Walks on 2 upright at noon in his full health. Walks on 3 with the aid of a cane or a staff in the evening as an old man. He's right. The Sphinx then falls and dies. Oedipus has saved Thebes. He goes to Thebes. He's welcomed as a hero. And, well, there's a vacancy, good word, a vacancy in the royal house. It seems the king of Thebes has recently died. So he marries the queen of Thebes. Now, in case you have missed this, the queen of Thebes is his mother. The king of Thebes was the man on the chariot. He killed his father, he marries his mother. Of course, he doesn't know this, but this is what has happened. This is the background. Now, he is king of Thebes basically, though he shares the power with his wife, Jocasta, and his brother-in-law, Creon. But they don't want the power. They're happy if he rules. So basically, he is the king of Thebes. Now, 20 years have passed. During that time, he has 4 children by mom. Yep, by mom. 2 boys, 2 girls. We'll hear more about them later. The action of the play now is ready to begin. Everything I've told you now is background. The play begins. At the beginning of the play, a terrible plague, P-L-A-G-U-E, is afflicting Thebes. Babies die, babies die too. That's how we know it's not just human sickness, it's not smallpox or something. A god is angry, the gods are angry. So, at the beginning of the play, the citizens gather around the altar, A-L-T-A-R, of Zeus, praying to Zeus for help against this terrible scourge, S-C-O-U-R-G-E. Out from the palace comes Oedipus. My people, I want to help you. He wants to be a good leader. He wants to help his people. He wants to do the right thing. He's a good man. His intentions are good. He's not a bad man. No one can call Oedipus a bad man. Okay. Help us. We're praying to Zeus. I'm doing everything I can. In fact, I sent my brother-in-law, Creon, to Delphi, of course, to ask Apollo what's wrong. And here he comes now. Creon, come here. Tell us what Apollo at Delphi had. And Creon says, the problem is this: the gods are angry because the sacrifices to the gods are all polluted, tainted. Because the person who killed King Laius 20 years ago is still in the city and is still participating in the sacrifices. You must get rid of this person. This does not mean necessarily kill him, but he must be exiled, removed from your city. Oedipus, the irony just mounting, says, I swear I will find this murderer of King Laius. I swear I will find him even if he is in my own family. Irony. He's the murderer. Oedipus is the murderer, but he doesn't know it. Even if he is my relative, I will get rid of him. Irony, irony, irony. We in the audience know everything, but Oedipus doesn't know. And then Oedipus curses the murderer. This is huge. He's cursing himself. We know this. He doesn't know this. Irony, irony. Okay. Now, Oedipus then speaks to Creon some more. We will find this person. Thank you. Who enters now? Oh, in fact, I will find him, and I will ask Tiresias, T-I-R-E-S-I-A-S, Tiresias, the famous prophet of Thebes. He's a prophet, actually, of Apollo, the most famous of all the prophets in Greek myth is Tiresias. I have sent for Tiresias 2 or 3 times, and he's not coming. I can't understand it. Why isn't he coming? Finally, Tiresias enters. He's blind. He's always led by a little boy, by a boy. He enters slowly, slowly. Oedipus is angry already. Come here, old man. Tell us what I need to know. We need to find out who was the person who killed old Laius before. We need to get rid of him. Tiresias speaks slowly. I don't want to be here. I don't want to get involved in this. I'm going to go away. Come here, old man, or I'm going to beat you. I will hurt you. I will force you to tell what you know. I don't want to tell. You don't want to hear it either. Don't play games with me, old man. Tell me, or I will hurt you. Now, let's stop for a minute and examine this. You are Oedipus. You, students, are Oedipus. You have learned that the oracle, O-R-A-C-L-E, of Apollo at Delphi has told you, you will kill your father. Now, how can you avoid killing your father? Do you want to avoid killing your father? Well, then what should you do? First, don't kill anybody. That's one good way. Second, if you do kill or hurt anybody, don't let that person be older, much older than you, old enough to be your father. Oedipus in this play consistently gets very angry at old men. Now, either he doesn't understand the prophecy, he's not smart enough to think, or he doesn't believe it. Now, frankly, Oedipus in the play, the way he speaks to Tiresias is the following. Listen, old man, fools believe in you and your prophecies, and I think he means fools believe in the gods. I think he doesn't believe in the gods. In any case, he certainly doesn't believe that Tiresias can foretell, prophesy the future. He certainly doesn't believe that in the prophecies. Fools, women and fools believe in you, old man, but I don't believe in you. You can see that Oedipus trusts his own intelligence a lot, but he doesn't trust Tiresias, and he doesn't generally, I think, credit religion very much. We're getting to see how this man works a little bit. There is some arrogance about him, And really, it's the arrogance that will be punished. So, notice then, he threatens this old man. We saw already that he killed an old man on the chariot, and that was his father. Okay, so Tiresias finally gets angry, and he says, "You fool, you think you know who you are. You don't know who you are. But by evening, this evening, you will no longer see, you will no longer have eyes, but you will see for the first time. You think you know who you are. You think you know who, you think you will find the murderer. You are the murderer." Great parallel to, Dr. Shin, great parallel to 2 Samuel, when the prophet Nathan tells David, "You are the man." Perfect parallel, wonderful. Though the story of Nathan is even better in 2 Samuel. Okay. Oedipus says, "Get out of here, fool, before I hurt you." Sees nothing. Okay. Slowly, Tiresias goes away. Oedipus thinks, now, why did this old prophet tell me this? I know why. Creon, my brother-in-law, paid him to do this, because these prophets only do anything for money. That's the only reason, that's the only thing that motivates them. Creon, come here. I see through your plot. You want to be king. You hired foolish prophet to tell me this lie. Creon says, I don't want to be king. I've never wanted to be king. I'm always happy that you are king. I'm very comfortable the way you are. Liar. And he gets angry at Creon. Creon is maybe old enough to be his father too. Interesting. Out from the palace comes Jocasta, the wife mother, and says, "What's going on here? Why are you two arguing in front of the people in this terrible time? Don't be foolish." Well, he said, this is nonsense. Creon doesn't want to be king. Then Oedipus says, well, Tiresias said that I killed your husband. But I don't think that's possible. Is it possible? How did Laius die? Well, he died at a point where 3 roads meet. Oh, God! Is it possible? Could I have killed him? I killed some men at a point, at a conjunction of 3 roads. No, impossible. Because the one man who survived and returned said that they were attacked by a large gang of thieves. You can see he lied. One man killed them all. But the male ego said it was a large group of men. Who is this one man who survived? Now notice, the play is very unbelievable because we have to believe that for 20 years they have lived together, husband and wife, and he has never asked about how Laius died. He has never asked about any of this. Well, that's impossible. Anyway, he asks now. I want to see this man who survived and came back. Well, when you arrived in our city, in Thebes, after saving us from the Sphinx, he came to me and he asked to be sent far away. He's a shepherd now, living far away. Send for him, I want to see him. Of course he wanted to go far away. He had survived in the terrible attack of Oedipus. Send for him, please. Now, enter a new character from Corinth, a messenger. Where's Oedipus? Here I am. Who are you? I'm from Corinth. I have news for you. The news is that your father in Corinth, King Merops was his name, has died. You are the new king of Corinth. Great, but I don't want to go back there because of the prophecy that I will kill my father and marry my mother. Well, I didn't kill my father, but maybe I will marry my mother. And then this man from Corinth says, you don't have to worry about that. They are not your real father and mother. How do you know? Because I was a shepherd many years ago. Well, this is a little difficult to believe. The same man was the shepherd from Corinth who took the baby from the Theban shepherd and took the baby to Corinth. This same man is now the messenger from Corinth 20 years later, or 40 years later, right? 35 to 40 years later. Well, that's unbelievable, of course. But, okay, that's a serious flaw in the play, and the play has many serious flaws. But, oh well. Anyway, Oedipus, you don't have to worry. Your real parents are not from Corinth. How do you know? Because I am the man who took you as a baby from the mountains and took you to Corinth. Who gave me as a baby to you? The Theban shepherd. Here he comes now. That's the man. 40 years later. 40 years later. This means that the same man was the Theban shepherd 35, 40 years ago who took the baby to the mountain, gave the baby to the Corinthian shepherd. He is the same man who years later survived the battle between Oedipus and the chariot, the old man on the chariot and the soldiers. He's the same man. Well, that's asking us to believe too much. These are serious flaws, F-L-A-W, in the play. Nevertheless, here he comes. That's the man who 35 or 40 years ago gave the baby to me. Come here, old man. Tell me what you know. I'm not talking. If you don't talk, I will hurt you. Here he is, threatening these old men again, again, again. I will hurt you. Okay, I'll tell you. Did you give me as a baby to this man many years ago? Yes. Who gave me the baby to you? The royal house. Now he knows. Now Oedipus knows who his parents were. And his parents, his mother, was his wife. And he knows also that his father was the man he killed. Terrible curse, to kill his father and marry his own mother and bear children by his own mother. He's desperate now. He runs inside with his sword. Apparently he's going to kill his mother. That's an interesting moment psychologically. Why? I guess because she gave him away and he can't kill his father twice. Or maybe he just feels the need to kill someone. In any case, he runs in. We don't see this action because in Greek drama we never see violence. Never even see action, really. Only dialogue. The doors, from behind the doors, soon a messenger comes. By the way, I haven't told you, but in all Greek dramas, a major character is the chorus. And the chorus, always singing songs, entering into dialogues with the characters. The chorus is not so essential in this play, but in some plays, earlier plays, essential. In any case, the chorus asks the messenger from inside the palace what happened. The messenger tells us what happened because we're never again permitted to see the violence. And what happened was this. Oedipus went inside, looked for his wife, found her. She had already hanged herself. She was dead. He snatches two brooches, pins that hold a dress together, from her dress and stabs his own eyes again and again. Blinds himself. Why does he blind himself? Well, it's true that Tiresias had already said that he would be blind at the end of the day, but I think psychologically it's believable. What didn't he want to see? I think the main thing he didn't want to see was people's faces when they looked at him. The pity and disgust that people would have when they looked at him. He couldn't stand that. I think that's pretty good. Why didn't he kill himself? Don't know. Then the final moment of the play, out comes Oedipus, now a broken man. Not entirely broken, he's still pretty strong, but blind, led by his daughters. His two daughters, Antigone and Ismene. Creon is now the king, of course. Creon's sister, Jocasta, dead. Oedipus, no longer the king. Creon takes over. Oedipus says, Creon, send me away from here. I want to go away. Creon says, wait. I'm in charge now. Wait. We're going to try to do things right this time. I'm sending a messenger to Delphi. If Delphi says, let him go, you can go. But if Delphi says you must stay here, then you will stay. Interesting. Shift of power. The end of the first play. Dr. Shin, how long do we have? Until 4 or after?
Let's make it 4 today.
4, okay. Then I will try to tell the second play, and I think I can. Because it takes about 20 minutes to tell a play with 20 minutes of background. So, the second play, Oedipus at Colonus. The last play that Sophocles wrote in the year of his death. In this play, Oedipus has wandered around. He stayed, it turns out, in Thebes for a while, but then he left Thebes. He wanders around, a poor man, led by his daughters, usually by one daughter, Antigone. The other daughter stays in Thebes, brings them food, tells them news. The two sons, here's background, this is important. The two sons' names Polynices and Eteocles. Creon was the king at first, but Creon didn't want to be king. He never did want that. And so the two sons of Oedipus agree to be kings. But they can't be kings together at the same time. So they agree to take turns. 1 year, 1 year. Eteocles is the older, so Eteocles rules for a year first. Polynices, the younger brother, wanders around. He returns at the end of a year. Brother, it's my turn. Eteocles says, no, go away. I'm not going to give up the throne. Go away. Well, this is how it goes. Now Polynices must wander around. He goes down to Argos, and he marries the princess of Argos. Her father, a powerful king, Adrastus. Adrastus agrees to help his son-in-law, Polynices, win back the throne of Thebes. So many names here I know. So, they are preparing for war. Now, in our play, Oedipus at Colonus, first we meet the two daughters, Antigone and Ismene. Ismene tries to comfort her father. She goes back to Thebes. Antigone is always with her father. Great daughters, both, Antigone especially. First person they see, Creon. Creon comes... No, I'll take that back. First is Polynices, the son who has wandered. Polynices comes to his father and asks for his blessing. Father doesn't like either one of them. As far as he's concerned, they are both selfish, greedy creatures, and he doesn't care which one of them win this battle. So he dismisses his son Polynices, refuses to bless either one of them. His daughters are kind and good, but the son's not good. He doesn't like them, really. Then, an interval. Then, the next visitor to visit him is Creon. Now, Creon is only coming because a new prophecy from Delphi, of course, says that the best place for Oedipus is not in Thebes, because the gods have already said, no, he mustn't be in Thebes. The best place for Creon, for Oedipus, is near Thebes, near Theban territory. And so Creon has come to ask Oedipus to return and live near Thebes. Oedipus hates Creon too, and so he tells him to go away. Creon then brings his soldiers, and he actually kidnaps Oedipus. They seize the poor old man, and they are going to take him away by force. But a messenger runs to Athens. I've got to back up here. What I should have told you in the first place. They have arrived. I'm sorry. Sequence. The very opening scene. This is only important for details, but the opening scene of the play, Oedipus at Colonus. They have arrived near what looks like to be a sacred grove of trees. Grove is like a small woods. A sacred grove of trees. And Oedipus feels that this is the place where he wants to die. He feels it. He doesn't know why. Some local citizens are there, and Oedipus says, what is this place? This is Colonus. Colonus is near Athens. Colonus is now with a part of Athens even. Then it was a town outside. You know how these large cities like Daegu swallow the villages that are nearby. They become part of the city. Colonus was a small town near Athens. We are on the territory of Athens, and this is important, very important. That's why I'm telling you this. They ask, who are you? They finally learn who he is, and at first they are disgusted. They say, go away, we don't want you here. The gods hate you. We don't want you here. Have mercy, people. Well, okay, we're going to ask the king of Athens, Theseus, very famous, Theseus, Theseus, what to do. And they send a messenger to the town, and the messenger comes back. Theseus has said, you can stay here. We at Athens welcome fugitives. We welcome people who are outcasts from other places. And we realize that this play, more than most plays, is kind of a propaganda play. Propaganda, that is like an advertisement that all governments use in the constant war for popular opinion. Athens was, at the time of the play, not before, but not in the mythical time, but at the present time, 406, Athens was always proud of its openness, its refuge, a haven for fugitives. And many wealthy and powerful fugitives had sought refuge in Athens. In 406 now, I'm talking about Sophocles' time. And so Sophocles was proud of his city. Historically, we'll get to that some other time. I'll talk about Socrates and sometime, and Plato to you, if Dr. Shin would like. Anyway, now, back to our scene. Creon is trying to kidnap Oedipus and take him by force away. And suddenly, Theseus arrives with his soldiers. Let that man go, and leave my territory now. Creon, leave my territory and never come back. We protect people here, and I will protect that old man, Oedipus. I have told him that he can stay, and I will protect him. Well, a great piece of propaganda. Here's Theseus, Athens, the protector of the defenseless, of the oppressed. Wow. And Creon has to leave. He's outnumbered, but Creon threatens war with Athens over this. And Theseus says, we at Athens will even go to war over this. This is what we are. We are the protectors of people, and we will continue to be. Great propaganda for Athens. You have to suspect that Sophocles is wooing the voters He wants to win first prize even in the year of his death. And this is one way to do it, by flattering Athens. But good idea. And it was true to some degree true. But Athens did some bad things too. Sometime we'll discuss it. Anyway, so now Theseus has rescued Oedipus and, by the way, Antigone, because of course Creon was going to take Antigone too, because Antigone was the person who took care of the old man Oedipus. You may stay as long as you wish, and I will help you. Athens is a great place. I've always heard that it's a great place, and now I see. And you're a great ruler. By the way, Theseus was not really a king. He was almost an elected person, because you remember that Athens is a democracy. During Sophocles' time, Athens was a democracy. Of course, earlier, not a democracy, but Theseus had been chosen to be the leader. He didn't just take or inherit the power. He did inherit it, but legally. If we have some time, when I get to the end of the play and we have a few minutes, then I will tell you more about Theseus. But for now, let's advance. Theseus and Oedipus become almost friends. And Theseus says, I think this is the place where I want to die. And I have a feeling that I'm supposed to enter this grove. I hope you will go in there with me. And Theseus says, I will. It's kind of important that we see that Oedipus has changed a lot. Is he a broken old man? No. Is he a timid, shy, broken old man? No. In fact, he's strong enough to dismiss his son, strong enough to say no to Creon. This is quite a man. Is he wise? I think a little wiser, but not as arrogant as he was before, but humble, not really either, I think. The Greeks, believed, Sophocles especially, is the teacher of the idea that by suffering we learn, and the only wisdom we ever gain in life, we gain from suffering. I think Christianity would mostly support this idea too. This is the role of suffering in life. Not that we gain wisdom, but the Lord loves a broken and contrite heart. By these standards, Sophocles has no broken heart, nor is he contrite, but he has suffered a lot. And it almost seems that the gods love him now. Because here's what happens at the end of the play. They decide to go into the grove together. Both daughters are there, Ismene and Antigone, Theseus, and the old man Oedipus. They go into the grove, and a messenger. Of course, we don't see anything after this because the messenger comes back. The messenger tells us what happens, as in all of the plays. And what happened was this. The four of them went some distance into the grove. But then Oedipus said goodbye to his daughters and told them to wait there or return. He went farther into the grove with Theseus alone. But then Theseus himself could not go in any further, and the blind old man went alone. And that's the last anyone saw. So, did Oedipus die? Maybe not. Is Oedipus kind of a demigod himself? Yes. And so they built a shrine there. The messenger reports all this, of course. And they built a shrine to Oedipus there at Colonus, and people used to go there and offer sacrifices and pray to the demigod Oedipus, as they would pray to the demigod Sophocles, even, for help in trouble or help. So what has happened to this man Oedipus at the end of the second play of the three plays? This man who was so arrogant before has now become much more, at least reverent to the gods. Wiser a little bit. Strong even through his sufferings, yes, but not arrogant, I think. Maybe at the end who he is. He had knowledge. He accepts who he is, although he seemed to live with a curse. This is a man, after all, who killed his own father and married his mother. Can he accept that? Yes. Does he love his children? The children of this incest, I-N-C-E-S-T? Of course he does. He loves his daughters, and he certainly doesn't dislike his sons for any reason that they are the products of an incestuous marriage. He fully accepts himself. He fully accepts who he has been and who he is now. And in this, perhaps he is loved by the gods. And in fact, in the end, he's a demigod. The gods certainly see him as a blessed man. So here's Sophocles saying that through suffering we gain insight into who we are, but we have to be strong enough to accept our suffering and accept who we are, to even praise the gods for whatever sorrows and afflictions they might give us, praise the gods for any strength they give us too. A great final play for our playwright Sophocles. The final play of his life, 406. But that still leaves our third play, Antigone, which is very important, very famous. Many Koreans have read it, I think. We'll have to save that play for another time. I'll tell you a little about Theseus, because these stories can be told quickly. Theseus was the son of a man named Aegeus, A-E-G-E-U-S, and Aegeus was the king of Athens. But this son was an illegitimate son. That is, he had this son by a princess of Troezen, a different town, and Theseus never saw his father for the first 18 years of his life. He was raised by his mother at Troezen. When he was 18, following the instructions left earlier, he found under a rock a staff, a sword, and the directions he should come to Athens to meet his father. The most famous things he did were the labors of Theseus, and these labors basically were wonderful deeds, actions that he performed, and they were meant to be parallels to the labors of Hercules, because Athens needed a great hero. Athens was a great city, they needed a great hero. Theseus was their hero. So on his way to Athens, he killed many monsters, and he did some amazing things. This rival to Hercules. When he arrived in Athens, I'll tell this story quickly. When he arrived in Athens, Athens was under a curse. That is, every year they had to send 7 boys and 7 girls to Crete, because they were under control of Crete, to be fed, these 7 boys and 7 girls, to the Minotaur, half bull, half man, this monster. Theseus said, I will put an end to that. His father didn't want to see him go, but he was determined. He went on the boat, the famous boat that went to Crete, carrying the 7 girls and 7 boys. In short, with the help of the princess Ariadne on Crete, he followed the string so that he could find his way out of the labyrinth. He followed the string, went in, killed the Minotaur, saved the 7 girls and 7 boys, found his way out of the labyrinth by following the string, set sail for Athens, The story of Ariadne is a different story. Arrived back at home, and this is the part I particularly want you to know. His father, Aegeus, an old man now, had said, if you die in Crete, if the boat returns, keep the black sail, because it was a black sail that was on the ship. But if you live, change the black sail to a white. I will wait for that boat. If I see a black ship, it will kill me, because I will know that you, my son, are dead. If I see a white sail, I will know that you, my son, have lived, and I will be happy. And so he waits and waits, the old man, Aegeus, for the return of the boat with a black sail. Theseus forgets to change the color of the sail. Now, this is one of my favorite little myths. Wait a minute, Theseus forgot? I don't believe it. This means to me that Theseus intentionally, on purpose, left the black sail, knowing that it would kill his father. Theseus didn't know his father. Theseus was not raised by his father. I think he was angry at his father. I think he intentionally left the black sail, forgot on purpose. Myth is full of things like that I will tell you at future times. Thank you.